Welcome to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name is David. If you like the channel and you want to get more of my updates, please like and subscribe. If you're new, like and subscribe too. You can follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. So in this video, we're going to talk about Republicans. More specifically, some of the outliers, because they're the ones who get the voice. They're the ones who are, pushing the party in the way it's going. And they're the ones who are advocating for crazy things. But let's be clear. So far, the only bill that the Republican Party has pushed forward onto the floor has been to remove the estate tax. So we're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then we're going to talk about John Cornyn. And the reason we're going to talk about these are two things. One, Marjorie Taylor Greene has a bill. It was been endorsed by a second Republican, but keep in mind, Marjorie Taylor Greene has no committee assignments. So basically all she does is just yell. We're going to talk about John Cornyn because his statements make no sense, and they're super crazy. And they're just pretty much in line with a lot of the Republican talking points at this point. All right, so let's get into that. All right, so this is Marjorie Taylor Greene's legislation. Congress saying Marjorie Taylor Greene introduces legislation to fire Fauci and ban vaccine passports. Today, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene introduces two pieces of legislation to fight against the authoritarian COVID dictates of Democrat politicians, DC bureaucrats, and corporate communists. Now, keep in mind, she's a DC bureaucrat. She's a congressperson. By definition, that makes you a DC bureaucrat. Also, corporate communism, we covered in her Mask of the Beast, is an incredibly stupid statement because she can't decide whether it's communism or fascism. So she doesn't know the difference, and this is just a nonsense word to her. This is the Fire Fauci Act will slash the salary of Dr. Always Wrong. Now, this is just more nonsense to zero, and we will not comply. Act will ban vaccine passports, prevent discrimination against the unvaccinated, and much more to protect the freedom of the American people. So let's look at her act. Remind the American public that Fauci is the highest paid of all 4 million federal employees, including the president. I guess this kind of makes sense. I didn't actually know what his salary was, but he's been doing this for like 60 years. So I guess if at some point he would have gotten enough of a raise to make this. But keep in mind, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who basically does nothing, is paid $175,000. So look, I think it's irrelevant what his pay is. He heads a massive agency. Cite numerous findings about Fauci evolving in contrary advice on COVID-19. Now, this is a common talking point. That Fauci changed his mind on masks, so that's why you don't have to wear them. He actually went on in an interview with Mehdi Hasan, and this is on Peacock, I believe, because I was looking for it on YouTube and I had a hard time finding it. And basically what he said, he was like, and Mehdi's done some really good interviews. I'm going to have to start watching that show more. He said to him, like, other Asian countries have had masks for a while. Like, why would you not say just having anything to help? Like, we understood that there was the issue with the N95 mask. And Fauci was like, look, I was wrong on that. But what he said is, here's the difference. If you receive new information and you change your opinion, it's because you're relating to the facts. If there's no new information and you change your opinion, then you're just being contrarian, which is what happened. Because originally we weren't aware of the asymptomatic spread. And then when we became aware of it, that's when things changed. So this is what they contrarily say. I'm sure she's going to argue something along the lines of Rand Paul that, oh, wait, once you're vaccinated, you're totally fine. Keep in mind, Rand Paul refuses to wear a mask. Rand Paul had COVID. Rand Paul knew he had COVID, went swimming. Also, kind of unrelated note, but always funny to bring up, Rand Paul's neighbor beat the shit out of him because he was Rand Paul. So that's where it is. Reduce Dr. Fauci's salary to zero until a new NIAID administrator is confirmed by the Senate. Now, I have spoken about this before. Part of the problem with this new crop of Republicans is they don't understand how government works. They just don't. Part of it is either willful ignorance on some of their parts. Part of it is purposeful ignorance, and part of them are just fucking crazy. She's just fucking crazy. Lauren Boebert just doesn't understand what's going on. Madison Cawthorn is there to literally troll the libs, because that's what his goal is, and that's why he has more invested in communications than he does in actually having a Senate office and doing policy positions. Now, why is this an idiot? This position, the NIAID administrator, is not a Senate confirmation. This is the list of positions, presidential appointments with Senate confirmations. Agriculture, armed services, banking, housing, and urban affairs, committee budget. So let's go to about health. Fine. Department of Health. Deputy secretary, assistant. You know what you don't see here? You don't see this position because it's not Senate confirmed. Direct the Government Accountability Office to conduct a study about the correspondence, financial, and policy memos inside the NADA before COVID through the end of this year. This will allow us to see what Fauci and the NADA knew when they knew it, and what they spent money on, and how the NAC responded. This should be for the entire administration, for the entirety of the Trump administration, and for every congressperson, because we know at least two, both of them from Georgia. No, it's more than that, because I think Dianne Feinstein was on that list as well. We know a handful of representatives got the briefing, the first briefing on how bad COVID was going to be the market, and then they sold all their stocks, and then they bought stocks otherwhere. So I want an investigation. I want to know who knew what when and what they did and where all the money went, because we know there was historic levels of incompetence during this pandemic. Historic levels. Donald Trump made it very clear he had no idea what was going on, and he did not want to help anybody. So far, just this last part I agree with, but for a totally different reason. Everything else in this is stupid. We Will Not Comply Act. Prevent any business engaged in interstate commerce from discriminating against a person based on their COVID vaccination status. Addressing a recent vaccine passport. Now, I've already spoken about this. There should absolutely be a vaccine passport. I believe you have to get vaccinated and show proof of vaccination or some type of religious exemption or a health exemption to not be getting vaccines to go into camps, to go into schools, to go into colleges. So it makes sense that if places want to have people come in, they should ask you to do this. These are private businesses. They're allowed to ask that. It's the same thing as them saying no shoes, no shirt, no service. If you're not vaccinated, you are a danger to their customers and their employees, which their employees in a lot of these places can't take time off anyway, so now you're endangering their business. The other part is vaccine passports are already required. They're required to go to certain places in Africa, certain other places. You have to get certain immunizations in order to go there. If I'm another country, I would require Americans to get a vaccine passport to come here, because I don't want them to bring whatever strain they have to my country. Okay? Cut off federal funding for vaccine mandates on employees, including federal employees, students attending primary, secondary, and post-secondary schools, organizations or sports, or any person who expresses a religious objection. Now, this is I just mentioned this. Look, you're going to say you're just cutting off funding to all these schools because I don't know if this is going to ultimately be acceptable for religious exemptions. I don't know how that's going to work for the actual vaccine passport. I don't think that's really an acceptable answer. But I have my own issues with religion and stuff. But the idea of cut funding because my religion allows me to say that I can get you sick is kind of a ridiculous one. create the ability to sue if a person has been discriminated against on the basis of their vaccination status or mask compliance. Now, this is acceptable to her, but if you discriminate against somebody for being gay or transgender, that you can't sue against them. Those people have no protections. But if I want to say, if I don't want to wear a mask, I can sue you for not allowing me to get you sick, is an incredibly dumb statement. Prevent airline companies from denying someone from flying based on their COVID vaccine status. This is, I've mentioned this already, you have to have a vaccine to fly some places anyway. Prevent students from being denied access to public colleges based on their vaccine status. You need to be immunized to go into to colleges. This is one of the things you have to do. You have to give them your immunizations so they know, because there's people there and they have to put the safety of other people above your insanity that I don't want to wear a mask or I don't want to get a vaccine. Express to the U.S. Senate that Jacobson versus Massachusetts, I don't know what this court case is. I would have to look into this later. This is something I would cover at another time. So look, this is ridiculous. This is an incredibly ridiculous bill. I hope this is what they bring up. I hope while the Biden administration is working on their jobs plan, this is what they're pointing to. Every time a Republican says something about COVID and how, things are getting better, point to this bill. Point to how they're actively fighting against the people who are trying to make it better and the methods we are using to make it better. Let's be clear, the Trump administration's incompetence put us in this position in the first place. This will not help. She's just advocating to the lowest common denominator. Now, let's talk about John Cornyn. John Cornyn wrote an op-ed. The Biden administration is titled "The Biden White House Media Doctrine: Less Can Be More." Now, let's be clear. Donald Trump was unbelievably accessible to the media. Kind of. Like, he did the helicopter press conferences. He held a lot of impromptu press conferences. He tweeted a lot. The problem with that is he basically just said propaganda from them every single time. He didn't actually advocate for policies, or he couldn't make a nuanced argument on things. So when Joe Biden is making a nuanced argument for things, like when we went over his speech a couple weeks ago, his first big press conference, he would go into the details and explain things of why he was doing these things. Donald Trump could not say these things. So when he would have this media accessibility, we would just be like inundated with the greatest hits. Let's remember Kimberly Guilfoyle, who was the third White House press secretary. She was before Kayleigh McEnany, and I think she was after Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Never had a press conference. All she did was go on Fox News. That's all she did. So let's see what he says here. In the first 3 months, Joe Biden's White House has settled on a firm press strategy. First, do no self-harm. Now, this is an incredibly dumb statement. Of course you want to do no self-harm. Why would you want to... What administration sits there and goes, you know what? I think I'm going to shoot myself in the foot today. Just because that was how Donald Trump operated, where every time he said something, he shot himself in the foot, doesn't mean it's a smart operating position. The president is not doing cable interviews. Now, Donald Trump only did a few cable interviews outside of Fox, and every single one of them were either incredibly disastrous, like they were when he went with Lester Holt, and that's how he basically admitted to doing crimes on television, or we end up with person, man, woman, camera. And we get the Jonathan Swan tweets, the memes of him going, the fuck are you saying to me? That's what happened when he didn't go on Fox News. So let's not pretend that Donald Trump was openly advocating for cable news interviews. And and Joe Biden has done some. He's done town halls, and then he stays after to talk to people. Tweets from his account are limited, and when they come unimaginably conventional. Is your argument the president should say more? This is your argument. The president should say more dumb shit to hurt himself. And now I would understand if I was against Joe Biden and I would have to advocate for this. I would want you to say more dumb shit so I can fight you instead of fear-mongering about things that aren't as big a deal or lying about your absolutely massively popular policies. This is an incredibly dumb statement. The public comments are largely scripted. Donald Trump had scripted comments. The problem was they were really dumb scripted comments. Perfect phone call. I did not say quid pro quo. Things like that. I did not say quid pro quo as I then asked for another one. A lot of the problems Donald Trump created were his own because he doesn't know how to think. Biden has opted for fewer sit-downs for interviews with mainstream outlets and reporters. He's had one major press conference, though another one is coming, and prefers remarks straight to camera from the marquee moments. This is better. The White House is leaning on cabinet officials to reach the audience that don't tune into his latest Rose Garden event. This is good because when it gets down to it, although there are mistakes in this, I'm going to cover the Pete Buttigieg not understanding number stuff. It is good that he's doing this. So let's start wrapping this up. I don't mind that he's only had one major press conference. I think that we have a daily press briefing, and I think she does a pretty good job. The fact that the cabinet officials are reaching out instead of Joe Biden is better because they're the specific people who understand the actual inner workings of the specific plates, of the specific things that they're talking about. The problem with the Trump cabinet officials were they were either non-existent, just put there to be yes men, or woefully unqualified, or some combination of all three of those. Remember, Ben Carson. Does anyone know what Ben Carson did? The biggest Ben Carson moments were he spent a fuck ton of money on furniture, and then he didn't understand something while Katie Porter ripped him a new one. What Betsy DeVos was not a good education secretary. The most competent one was Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo, who can't get any other job right now than working at Fox. So let's not pretend that Donald Trump didn't send out his cabinet officials because their job wasn't to do anything but clean up his mess and kiss his ass. The reason these cabinet officials are coming out is because they're advocating for real policy. So, what do we learn? Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't understand what Dr. Fauci does and doesn't understand what a vaccine passport is. John Cornyn is advocating for lunacy. That's really what he wants. He wants a crazy president who tweets nonsense and just says crazy shit, which is just crazy. So please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and that'll keep you up to date on all my stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.